Check this out. I got 2 of these. I'll be frank with you here in the opening seconds of this video. I have low patience for our subject matter this week. However, I do think it's worth talking about a very unusual thing happened this week. Nvidia announced DLSS 5, which, I mean, that's 5, right? It shouldn't be that unusual. It introduced a more dramatic graphical change than any DLSS version has ever dreamed to. You see, DLSS is no longer super sampling, it's beautification through the power of AI. But something's not right about it. Anyone who's played Resident Evil 9 would look at this and say, that's not Grace. That's someone else. What did you do to her? And yeah, it hit news sites too. The backlash has been unusually widespread. This is just a garbage AI filter. Nvidia met with criticism for DLSS 5's photoreal graphics alterations. It's re-rendering the game. It turns out game artists don't love DLSS 5 despite Nvidia's claims. We spoke to game devs and all of them hate DLSS 5. What the F, Nvidia? So yeah, I'd call that, I guess, a thorough pushback, and probably the most that a graphics update has ever achieved. So yeah, it is gaming news. But first I'd like to start with GDC 2026. No, I'm sorry, not GDC. That was last week. I'm talking about GTC, which is Nvidia's exclusive event. It stands for GPU Technology Conference. Less and less every year. Bank of America calls it the Woodstock of AI. And of course, the main event of GTC is a keynote address delivered by, of course, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang. Pictured here, scooching his way into the top 10 richest people on Earth. Just crazy. 21 years after this moment.
Her hair looks so incredibly soft.
Jensen Huang, again, one of the top 10 richest people on Earth, is still pretty bad at doing press conferences.
That made it possible for you to be able to adapt to the physical world. Check that out.
Not to say that.
That's how smart you are.
I'm a snowman, not a snowclopedia.
Could you imagine this?
Now, you know I love playing awkward clips for you, but some of this Nvidia stuff teeters into not being funny anymore. Like the music video finale, I would say is maybe more grotesque than cringy.
Vera Rubin plus Grok make the inference splash. Put them together, now it's raining cash. We build new architecture every year, cause claws keep yelling more tokens here.
And then there's also stuff that's just kind of scary, like this.
The 3 of our companies have made it possible to stand up a brand new type of AI platform, the Palantir Ontology platform, an AI platform. And we could stand up these platforms in any country, in any air-gapped region, completely on-prem, completely on-site, completely in the field. AI could be deployed literally everywhere.
Yeah, Nvidia used to just be a fun graphics card company. Now it has to spend a lot of time talking about AI and even its military applications.
Getting the same capabilities that, we can pull out our phone and use into the hands of warfighters and analysts and operators that need those tools to have some kind of compelling edge in their mission is traditionally been the area that we've seen be the limiting factor.
And sorry, when you say capability constrained, you mean in the product sense for the military sense versus the model sense?
Yeah, well, no, actually both traditionally.
By the way, that clip was from a 3-hour-long pregame show that preceded the keynote speech. And those people freaking love Jensen.
I met Jensen a year later, 97. Completely turned things around.
I've heard Jensen say that all enterprises in the future are either going to be token producers or token consumers.
Jensen would tell us we're at the beginning of another S-curve.
Which is why Jensen is so right. And, I love how Jensen lays out the 5 layers.
Well, Tiffany, first I have to give so much of the credit to Jensen, the one and only Jensen, the GOAT.
Thank you, Jensen.
Hey, guys. Hello. Wow, check it out. This is just like the Super Bowl. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Go stretch.
There might be more people here to see you than the Super Bowl. Where were we?
So that's why it's fun to know that the press had access to Jensen Huang for a Q&A session at GTC. And that's why Paul Alcorn of Tom's Hardware was able to ask this straightforward question. Since DLSS 5 was revealed yesterday, there's been a pretty vocal response from some of the gaming community that the technology appears to make games appear worse, homogeneous, or show only Nvidia's view of how games should look. How do you feel about that criticism? That's a good question, right? Jensen responded, well, first of all, they're completely wrong. The reason for that is because, as I have explained very carefully, DLSS 5 fuses controllability of the geometry and textures and everything about the game with generative AI. And here's how he very carefully explained it.
We combine 3D graphics, structured data, with generative AI, probabilistic computing. One of them is completely predictive, the other one probabilistic, yet highly realistic. We combine these two ideas, controlled through structured data, controlled perfectly, and yet generating at the same time.
Yeah, he just really wants to hammer in the distinction. One half is completely predictive, that's what the developers build, and the other half is probabilistic yet highly realistic, which is when AI is taking the wheel. The most detailed defense I could find was actually in the YouTube comments for the DLSS 5 trailer. Nvidia pinned their own comment, and they say the software development kit includes things like intensity, color grading, and masking off places where the effect shouldn't be applied. Hey, if developers don't like what our algorithm is doing to Grace's lips, they can just mask the effect off. Jensen's conclusion to the criticism was this is very different from generative AI. It's content controlled generative AI. That's why we call it neural rendering. Babe, honey, baby, listen. This is not an orangutan I accidentally locked into the bathroom. This is an orangutan I accidentally locked into the bathroom holding a dagger that I bought from the mall last week. That's why I call this not our bathroom anymore. So while typically when there is widespread backlash like what DLSS 5 is experiencing, companies typically would apologize, listen, hear you, and then eventually walk back the decisions that they've made. However, in this case, these Maybelline makeovers seem so central to everything that Nvidia is doing going forward that I can't see them backing down from this. Until the AI bubble pops, at least. So give it a few weeks. And that is delayed input. I'll be back next week. Until then, thanks for watching. I'd say over the years, one of the things I've become increasingly baffled and frustrated by is when video game marketing campaigns obstinately stick to their guns without any changes, even when it's clear what they're doing is not working. I feel like for the last year, I've been watching marathon trailers shouting pivot like Ross in a stairwell. Anyway, this week, Starfield tried something new with marketing.
And when they showed us DLSS 5 and we got it running in Starfield, it was amazing how it brought
Not that. No. There's a trailer for 2 new DLC expansions, Free Lanes and Terran Armada. And I was surprised to see an actual real change in tone. Typically, Starfield trailers have always been like this.
This is where we belong.
And I guess if we're being fair, the Shattered Space DLC had more of a horror thriller vibe. But still very serious, right? So what's weird is that for the Free Lanes half of the trailer, they actually tonally go for this very different musical vibe, firstly, with this upbeat lyrical track, and then try to hammer in that Starfield is fun.
Enjoy the ride.
I thought that was interesting. They never tried to make this game look fun before. But then the back half of that trailer for Terran Armada, that got much more traditional.
I shall stand in awe.
And you know what? Looking back at that scene, you kind of get it. You kind of get why Todd Howard wants DLSS 5 to fix all those Starfield NPCs. None of them were crossing their arms the right way. All right, because when you cross your arms, you tuck your fingers in like that, right? You never go knuckles out. Try doing that. It's actually very uncomfortable. And these two characters are going knuckles out. Cowboy Hat has no fingers on his sleeve, so clearly he's doing double tuck, which, just doesn't look tough. And then the yellow-haired man at the end is just kind of doing this. And look, I've never played the game. Maybe that guy is an alien who just doesn't get arm crossing. But my hypothesis is that they just didn't bother animating him because he's the one in the back.